1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a traveling man, I'm always going away. Won't be coming home for 11 days. I'll watch you through the checkpoint, the crowd washes you away. Was that a tear or the Mexico City rain? See my face reflected in that polished tile floor. Never noticed that before. But I guess that's what you go through every time I hop a plane. Was that a tear or the Mexico City rain? No, it's not like it's the first time I've been out here on my own. But as I watch you walk away, well, it feels so far from home. And I guess that's what you go through every time I hop a plane. Was that a tear or the Mexico City rain? It's a crowded metro station and I trip going up the stairs. Nobody stops 'cause nobody cares. In the hotel room, the burning sun comes through the window pane. What I wouldn't give for rain. Well, it's not like it's the first time I've been out here on my own. But as I watch you walk away, well, it feels so far from home. Yeah, I guess that's what you go through every time I hop a plane. Was that a tear or the Mexico City rain? Was that a tear? Mexico City rain.
Sing Talk Play with Calgary's own, Alberta's own, Canada's own Matt Masters.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
I know
it's
you
nice
are a
to-
busy man.
It's nice to hang out sometimes, you know, to play a little music, chat a little bit about it. It's a nice thing to do.
That first song that you played, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sure. It's called Mexico City Rain, and it's one of my newer tunes. It's funny I say newer because I started working on it almost 3 years ago now, but I've just put it on my newest recording. And it's a song I wrote in Mexico after I watched my wife leave at the airport, because normally it's me who leaves at the airport. So it was kind of a different scenario because she was there for the first week of the tour and then had to go home, and I was there for another week. And so it was just a different thing because usually I'm the one who's, you know, doing the departing. So I was, you know, kind of a role reversal. And then I went back to the hotel room as you do, and then you write the song and sit on it for 2.5 years and finally get comfortable enough to start playing it.
Well, you're accustomed to writing high quality songs very quickly. You have an insane amount of music focused on, a lot of it on Alberta.
Yeah, I mean, I always have written regionally for sure. I mean, it's where I grew up, so it's what I know most about. I've only been to Mexico once. I've only got one song with Mexico. Yeah, I mean, I like to write songs about where you travel to, but you don't always you can't just go to a place and come back with a great song. I wish you could, but it doesn't always happen that way. And then I've written other songs while I was traveling, but they weren't about the travel place, But I've certainly written lots of tunes about Alberta. Spent lots of time traveling around Alberta, so it's territory I know pretty well.
Well, and Alberta knows you really well. There's very few places that you haven't been and played. So in 2009, a few years back, you were awarded TELUS's Arts and Innovation Award.
That's right.
And it was for innovation, particularly on your stage shows and your collaborations with other artists.
Well, 2008 and 2009 were busy years for me.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe those are already so long in the past. But in 2008, I debuted a play, an original country and western musical, with a all Western Canadian cast. A story called Don Quixote, which was like a take on Don Quixote, and it played at an Alberta Music Festival, and then in Ontario, and even in Europe as well. So it was a successful run for good old Don Quixote. And then I also debuted a country music festival that I have subsequently curated now for 6 years, called the Spaghetti Western Festival that year, a free downtown country music festival that celebrates the best in traditional and alternative country music. And it's grown to become Canada's largest dedicated alt country festival. So that's been a success, and that started that year too. Then at the same time, in 2009, even while I won that award, I was working on a film project with local movie man Dave Lawrence, it was called A Legend of Whitey was the finished name. It was a feature film wherein I played a country singer, not so far from, cast pretty close to the cloth or whatever, but it was just then it was a pretty busy time working in film, working in production, and working in theater, and still being a honky tonker who has 75 shows a year to play in assorted barns, community halls, and
that's great
clubs.
And since then, you've worked on a ton of other projects. The ones that come to mind that really stand out for me was your residency in 2012 at CJSW, where we are right now, on one of my favorite shows, where you did some interesting stuff. I don't think any other radio show on CJSW has ever had a resident band.
Yeah, in 2012, as part of the Calgary Cultural Capitals granting initiative, I became the CJSW Artist in Residence. It was the first time there'd been an artist in residence at the college station here. And we didn't just do something that was unique to CJSW. We did something that was really unique to radio in Canada right now. We put a live house band in a studio with a DJ. Over the course of 8 weeks, I think we had 21 studio dates with different bands. And it was the kind of thing like where the DJ told a joke, needed a cymbal crash, he got one, and if there was a story going that needed a bit of underscoring of a spooky nature, in came that, tremolo guitar, and it was a really interesting experience to let the musicians, experiment on live radio, which used to happen a lot more with live music on radio, but nowadays radio doesn't have as many opportunities for live musicians. So through the course of the 8-week program, I think we brought about 50 or 55 musicians into the studio, and made something like over 40 hours of live radio. So it was awesome.
Amazing.
It really was.
And that was Chad Saunders' show.
Yeah, My Allergy to the Fans,
which is a long-running show here on CJSW. So what are you doing now? It sounds like you're gearing up for another great project.
Well, I've always got something on the back burner, and right now, actually, I'm a dad, so I'm taking care of my daughter. Just turned 2. And so, being a dad is a new all-encompassing thing for me. I'm just running my band as per usual, working on the next recording as well, which is a collection of songs, a lot of traditional Alberta folk songs that I'm singing, not quite solo, but in a much smaller ensembles than my albums are usually pretty big productions with, a 9-piece band or something. This is more like just myself and a guitar and maybe an accompanist. But I do always have a big project that's in the works. I have a notion about taking a Western Canadian show on the road, like if you imagine a Wild West show, kind of contemporary version of an old Wild West show with all the music and dancing that Western Canadian culture has to offer, touring to the great capitals of Europe and Asia. That's all I can say right now, but it'll be coming soon.
Amazing. We'll watch for it.
Thank you.
How does it feel being one of a handful of representatives from this region when you tour? Do you feel the responsibility to promote Alberta culture, because you do it so well within Alberta and around the world? Is that something that's a passion of yours, or is that something you feel like needs to happen?
I mean, yes to almost everything there. I mean, I think I'm very passionate about Alberta culture. I think it's really important that we talk about it outside of our borders. Alberta is still a relatively young place, and so we have a voice that needs to be heard on a global scale, and it's one that we still are figuring out how to exercise, how to get it out there. So it's something I definitely, I take that on when I'm traveling, because people are curious about Alberta, no matter where you're talking to. And I've been to 28 countries, so I've done some traveling, and I love being representative for Alberta. And I mean, I've worked in official capacities, whether it's with Travel Alberta and Tourism Calgary or the Calgary Stampede, and or with even some government functions, and I've worked a lot of government functions too, including a tour of Turkey and the Canadian Embassy in Turkey in 2009. So I've done a lot of work in that capacity, and I feel musicians are, and all artists, but musicians in particular, just because it's easy to hear things, are the front line to teaching people about where we're from, no matter where we're from. Well, low-growing willows, they're inundated, and the species can't survive along that way. So much snow melt is a-flowing out that old outlet stream. Well, that water, it's unusually high. Well, speaking of that old outlet stream, yeah, speaking of that old outlet stream, that's the Bow River. That's the Bow River. Yeah, fresh and clean, fast running Rocky Mountain stream, this Bow River. Well, now Bow Lake is the headwaters of the Bow River, and Bow Glacier's the headwaters for the lake. From the Bow down through the Saskatchewan to the Nelson, well, that water's gonna flow to Hudson's Bay. Well, speaking of that old outlet stream, yeah, well, speaking of that old outlet stream, that's the Bow River. That's the Bow River. Yeah, fresh and clean, fast running Rocky Mountain stream, that's the Bow River. Well, now speaking of that old outlet stream, yeah, speaking of that old outlet stream, that's the Bow River. That's the Bow River. Well, that's a fresh and clean, fast running Rocky Mountain stream, that's the Bow River.